Good morning and welcome to a special Child of the Week assembly today. And it's special because this is the first time that we've been back together again as a school since before Christmas. So we should really just take a moment and reflect on how great that is. It's so good to have everybody back together again in your class and together again in school. And I really hope this will be a great time for you to come back and to meet your friends and to enjoy being together again. We're going to start with our liturgy and remember that it is God who has been with us, journeying with us, and it's Him that we are so grateful to today. In the beginning, when God created all things, He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Let your light shine. God is light, and in Him there is no darkness. Let your light shine. Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. Let your light shine." Well, today we're going to think a little bit about traditions that people celebrate, events that have happened in the past that are still celebrated today. And we're going to think particularly about this tradition of Purim, which is a Jewish festival. I wonder what past events we still celebrate today. I've got a bit of a quiz here, and I'm going to put some words up on the screen, and I wonder if you can put your hands up in class and guess which event it is that I am thinking about. Loud. Flames. Toffee apples. Bonfire. Fireworks. I wonder what past event I'm thinking of. And there's a picture here to help you. Bonfire night, and that's a celebration, if you like, of Guy Fawkes night, and maybe that's something that you can talk about in your class. What about this one? Lent. That's the season that we're in at the moment, the season in the church, Lent, when Jesus went into the desert. Sacrifice. Big word here, crucifixion. Another big word, resurrection. New life. I wonder whether anybody's got that one. It's Easter, and that's coming up shortly. April the 1st, I think, is when we break up from school, and Good Friday is April the 2nd, so not long now. And we see the empty cross and the empty tomb when Jesus was resurrected. So we have these past events that we still celebrate today. The Jewish people had this event called Purim, which is linked to a very special story in the Old Testament, which is about Queen Esther. And I'd like to read that to you today. So here we have a lovely picture of Esther, who was a queen, and I'd like to read you the story from my book, which is the Lion Storyteller Bible. And so maybe I'll stop sharing my screen just for a minute so that I can show you the picture in it. Esther was a star, a beautiful Jewish girl, chosen by the king of Persia to be his queen. Esther had an uncle called Mordecai who was very kind, and when Esther's parents died, he raised her as his own daughter. When she was made queen, he warned her not to tell the king that she had come from one of his captive lands. Her ancestors had been Jews, and they had been prisoners for the king. And so the king was clueless as to the background of Esther. He loved her, but he didn't know that she was a Jew. Haman, who was the right-hand man of the king, was horrible. He loved nothing more than to push people about. And one day, as he was walking through the city, he met some of the king's other servants. "Bow before me," he was commanding them, and they all bowed because they were scared. Except for Mordecai. "I will bow before no one but God," he said. Haman was furious and went straight to the king to seek his revenge. "This is a troublesome race of people in your land," he said. "They worship a different God. They're Jews, your majesty. Give me your permission and I will do away with them." The king was clueless, so he told horrible Haman to kill every Jew in the land, not knowing that he was condemning his own queen, Esther, to death. When Mordecai heard the news, he went to see Esther. "Go to the king and do what you can to save us." "But I have to wait for the king to invite me into his presence," said Esther. "If I go to him without his invitation, the law of the Persians says that he has the right to kill me." "You must go anyway," said Mordecai, "whatever the risk. God puts people in places at just the right time so that they can do what he wants. God has put you in the palace to save his people and to save your people." Esther was a star, so she went to see the king. And far from being angry, the king was delighted to see her. "What do you want, my darling?" he asked. "I want to have a dinner party," said Esther, "and I want you to invite your right-hand man, Haman." The king agreed, and the date was set. And horrible Haman was happy. He'd been building a horrible hanging machine in his garden, where he hoped to murder Mordecai. The queen's invitation made him even happier. But when he got to the party, horrible Haman was suddenly not so happy. "I have some sad news today," said the queen with tears in her eyes. "Someone wants me to see me dead. And not only me, but all of my people too." "Who is this person?" shouted the king. "Tell me, and he will soon be dead instead." "There he is," said Esther, and she pointed to Haman. And there we've got the picture of the queen pointing to Haman, letting her husband know, the king, that he was the person that was plotting against them. "I don't understand," Haman trembled. "I've nothing against you. You're the queen." "Yes, you do," said Esther, "for I am a Jew, and you mean to kill us all." The king was no longer clueless. He saw everything clearly. He loved his queen. He didn't care that she was a Jew, but he was very angry with Haman. "Put him to death," the king ordered. And so Haman was hanged on his very own hanging machine. But Esther and Mordecai and all their people lived on, and they lived on to return to their own land. And all because Esther was a star. She shone her light really brightly. You're going to hear a little bit more about this story tomorrow and over the coming days. The story of Purim. And the reason why it's called Purim is because Haman, who hated those Jewish people, he cast lots to choose the day that he was going to kill them all. And the casting of lots is called Purim. And that is now celebrated some, 2,500 years after that event. And the Bible says that Mordecai wrote to all the Jews living in the area, asking them to celebrate a yearly festival so that they could remember the victory that Esther had had over Haman. and they had to celebrate with feasting and gladness and the buying of food to each other, gifts and presents for the poor. It's a wonderful festival and really enjoyed by Jewish people. Happened about this time of year. I think it happened just at the end of February this year. Let's go back to my PowerPoint. It's interesting that nearly every tradition, any celebration that we have, tends to have two parts to it. There's the original event, which is a story or event in itself, and then celebrations are what happens when we think about those events that happened years ago, but we celebrate them today. We remember them, we mark the occasion. And there's lots of celebrations like that. Your birthday is one of them, and you'll maybe mark that with people around you that you love and who care for you. Often those celebrations, they're not done individually, but with a group of people. I've been thinking a little bit about today and what marks today, coming back together. And I've got these two pictures that I think are quite key to what I want to say. You know, we're remembering the time of lockdown that we've had. It's been difficult, really hard, and we've missed each other and lots of difficult experiences. It's been hard just getting on and coping with being by ourselves. We've missed each other, but we are back together again. And I love that picture. We are here together. And we've got a little boy and little girl here, and they are working together to build that rainbow again, to reconnect with their rainbow. And that's what we're all about at Winslow. So I want to mark this point just by taking a little bit of time to think and to thank God for bringing us through this difficult time and for now being with us as we move forward and begin to reconnect with our rainbow. So let's just take a moment to pause, just to be quiet. What are those things that you can be thankful for? And we mark this moment as we're back together again by saying thank you to God. And so our reflection, I wonder what events from the past you celebrate, and maybe you've got practices in your own family that have a direct link to the past. Maybe practices that you do now that have been done by people hundreds of years ago. I wonder, will people in the future remember lockdown and celebrate its end? Will they remember March 2020 when we all came back to school and celebrate that? It's interesting, isn't it? Will what is so significant to us be significant in the future? I'd like us to say a prayer together. Dear God, we're thankful for stories and events from the past, and we're mindful that they help us to remember the past and to celebrate with our communities. Help us to be respectful as we all celebrate and remember different events, and keep in mind that remembering is an important part of what it is to be human. So we remember together, and over the next few weeks, I'm sure you'll be remembering and sharing things from your experience of the last couple of months and celebrating together as we move forward. We're so pleased that we're all back together again. And so we move on to our Child of the Week celebration. And so for our first Child of the Week, back together again, we celebrate in year one in Miss Burnham's class Benjamin. And Miss Marsden has chosen Evelyn. In year 2, Miss Franklin's chosen Ruby, and Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Walker want to say well done to Rudy. In year 3, Miss Jakes and Mrs. Poole are celebrating Lily as their child of the week, and Miss Cross has chosen Ocean Blue. In year 4, Miss Lefebvre has chosen 2 people, Orion and Arthur, and Mr. Wright has chosen Rosie. Clearly, Mrs. O'Donoghue couldn't think who to choose. She's chosen her whole class, and she wants to say a really big well done to all of you. Mr. Boyer has chosen Eternity Love. And finally, in year 6, Mrs. Epps and Miss Greenhill have chosen Grace, and Mr. Nile has chosen Margarita. A big well done to all of you. And so we come to the end of our assembly. And so we say together, go in the light and peace of Jesus. In the name of Christ. Amen.